walls and the holes in them. I was home 7 days later, trying to save my marriage, and got divorced 2 months after that. During those 2 months, if it wasn't quiet, it was loud. The night she tossed her ring into the street and locked the door behind me when I went to find it, I wished at that time I'd listened to my sergeant when he said, "Don't do this for a bitch." Boy, did he hit the nail on the head. She's been a real pain since. I realized since that I was trying to use the military as an easy out. I was trying to use patriotism as a cowardly excuse out of my misery. I was hoping to die in combat as a hero. It backfired a bit. I can't eat gravy much anymore. It's also taken years to slow down how fast I eat, and the speed of my eating has caused a lot of health problems. Who knows what I've been inoculated with when I stood in line and had over half a dozen people jab needles in my arms, both sides, while I went through Indoc and Basic. I've since learned about something called adrenochrome and that it may have been used during that time in experiments in the military, delivered through the gravy. Just what I found. Don't take my word for it. I don't claim to be a vet. I don't get benefits. I have a general discharge DD-214, or excuse me, DD-244, and I pray each and every day to be released from the oaths I took for a satanic country and to not be called back to service due to an unnecessary draft. I also pray that my sons are released from the draft of the selective service when it comes due. I hope I never have to hide them from a tyrannical government. Just after this all happened with Elsie, I had started working at a call center in Salt Lake City, riding the bus and my bicycle to work from the other side of the valley 6 days a week for an 8 to 10 hour shift, sitting on the phone, trying to convince people to transfer a balance onto the freshly activated credit card. I was paid $8.50 an hour and received a bonus for any balances I could convince someone to transfer. It wasn't a bad gig, but it wasn't enough. I was living in my cousin's basement and they were helping me get up on my feet. I had nothing but my clothes. I left everything for Elsie and I did not fight a single thing. She said I was a failure and she was right. I failed out of high school. Although I ended up getting my diploma and GED 2 years after my class graduated, I still failed. I failed my country and came home to save my family, and that failed. I was a failure. I worked at this call center for a few weeks and met some people around my age. I started realizing that I'd done life back asswards, and this may be a chance for a reset of sorts. I started hustling work and making decent enough money to start saving for a car and my own place. One day, I was in the middle of a call with a customer and I saw this short, dark head of hair pass by my cubicle wall down the walkway between chatting agents. I glance over to see who it was, and all I catch is a glimpse of brown skin, long dark black hair, and the tiniest frame of a woman I'd ever seen. She looked Hispanic, and the thoughts of being with a Spanish girl excite me for a moment. She looked way too young to be working there, but she was, and she was moving past me, fast. I watched her speed by and went back to the grind. I was at work, trying to support my failed family by giving Elsie as much as I could spare for my son. I was trying. About a week goes by, and I'm talking to my buddy Jameson during a break in work. I wish I could remember your last name. I want to find you. I'm using your real first name because I want to find you. I know hearing this story you'll know exactly who you are. We're still looking for you. I know we'll run into you. I have so much to talk to you about. Anyways, Jameson and I are BSing over dumb stuff, I'm sure. And this dark haired girl prances by on the tallest heels I've ever seen someone walk on. They looked almost like 70s disco boots at first glance, but they weren't that extreme. They were brown pleather with about a 2-inch platform and a 6-inch heel. They were tall, and she was gorgeous. Long, almost knee length jet black hair, dark mocha brown skin, deep penetrating cinnamon coffee, brown eyes covered by dark lashes and slightly tinted lids. I stopped mid sentence and gawked as she passed by. Earth to Andy. Dude, what's up? Jameson says, snapping me from my trance. Who is that? I responded. Oh, her? That's Athena. She's on my team. She's cool. You want to meet her? He says coolly. What? I could meet her? Uh, what would I say? What should I do? Do I ask her if she has a boyfriend right off the bat? Should I just be cool and see if she even talks to me? No, she's too pretty. Way too pretty. Like completely out of my league. No, man, it's cool. I'm probably not her type, I said, and turned back to work. About an hour later, we were taking another break from the phones. He and I were tossing a foam ball back and forth, one of those little stress ball things you see on everyone's desk at a call center or office. Well, we were chatting back and forth, and Athena saunters by again, slower than normal, and I go dumb. Thud, the ball smacks me in the forehead. Dude, just go talk to her, Jameson says. No, man, I'm dealing with my ex, you know that. That would just make things harder, I said. I bet I can get her to come talk to you without saying a word, he remarked, with that sly look someone gets when they're up to no good. Yeah, right. The ball soars backwards over his head and lands right in front of Athena as Jameson grins ear to ear. Dude, I exclaimed. We wait. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. I go back to work, and he walks around the corner to retrieve the ball. I put my corporate blinders back on and go back to work. What I didn't know is what happened on the other side of the wall. Athena tells me that Jameson came around the corner to get the ball, and she was curious why it came over to her. He recalled our conversation to her, and she told him to let me know she was willing to meet me if I wanted to come say hi to her. He comes back and pokes me to go say hi a few more times, then gives up because his break was over. We keep working away, call after call. Hi, I hear a little voice say behind me. Jameson said you wanted to meet me. I was about to ready to leave, so I figured since you hadn't come over, I'd stop by. It was Athena. She was beautiful. I didn't know how to talk anymore. I don't remember much of our conversation that day. She does, though. She can tell you verbatim how it went. That's how amazing she is. But I do remember her asking to take her shoes off because her feet hurt. She warned me her feet would stink really bad when she wore these shoes. I told her I didn't believe her, and boy did she prove me wrong. They stunk. She finally threw those shoes away a few years later, after rarely wearing them again. She sat and talked to me until my ex-wife picked me up from work that day so I could see my son. I guess she expected me to call that night. It was Friday and she wanted to hang out, but me being dad and all, I never called that weekend. When she found out the following Monday why I hadn't called, she didn't even get upset. It seemed odd to me that a woman was not upset with me for something I didn't do, that she expected me to do. A few bricks came down that day. I talked to Athena every day for the next 3 days, on our breaks, at lunch, before work, after work, every spare minute we had. We'd gotten to know each other pretty well, and she asked if I wanted to hang out that night. It was a Wednesday, I think. I had to work the next day. I needed a ride to and from her house, and then I needed enough sleep to get rest for the next day. I needed to get up early enough to catch the bus to work and be there on time. I did the figuring in my head and realized I'd get about 2 hours of sleep. She read my face like a book. I can give you a ride if you need, she said. It was all I needed to convince me. I was game. I got to go spend even more time with this beautiful woman. I was on cloud nine. We left work and headed out to her place. She said she was going to stop at her parents' house and I was welcome to come in if I wanted. We walked into a clean, manicured house, pristine in every way you could imagine. No dust, no mess, no clutter. It looked like a picture from Better Homes and Gardens magazine. I didn't care. I didn't dare touch anything. Her mom comes around the corner, glowing white skin and dark chestnut brown hair, and greets her with a hug as she introduces me to her family. I see dark hair on mom, and everyone else has red hair. Very pale, white skin, and red hair. Athena is the eldest of 4 kids, and everyone has pale white skin and red hair. Except mom. Her hair is dark chestnut brown. She has to be adopted, I thought. She looks Mexican. Nope, that was her family. I found out that Athena loved the tanning bed and had a regular pass. She was dark. My lifelong fantasy of being with a Spanish girl just crushed. I wish you could have heard me laughing as I wrote this. I laugh every time I tell this story. The look on people's faces is my favorite part of telling my stories. After we left her family's house, we headed down the road to her little 2-bedroom duplex that she rented. It was a tiny, tiny place, maybe 600 square feet of foundation split between the 2 units that were there. Tiny. We sat up and talked on her couch until about 10 and realized we needed to get some sleep for the next day. I told her I'd call for a ride home, and she offered to let me crash there. I asked for a pillow and a blanket for the couch, and she offered the opposing side of her queen-size bed. I'd never slept in a queen-size bed, so I asked to see how big it was. Big enough, I thought. Can't use that as an excuse. I like to sleep in my boxers, but I'll just keep my jeans on, I stated. She insisted I be as comfortable as I wanted and started getting ready for sleep herself. We lay down on her mattress and talked more. We realized it was about midnight before one of us yawned again and decided we should probably shut the lights off if we were going to go to sleep that night. We laid there in awkward silence for a while. It felt like a good 20 to 30 minutes, and I felt her roll over and stare in my direction, penetrating the dark with her deep brown eyes, and ask, well, that's for another story. I'll condense it to this version. We never went to sleep that night. Coffee was our best friend the next day at work. I went home with her again and again, like a lost puppy that found someone that would be his pet, that would pet his belly. I fell for her fast. I develop emotions quickly when I'm intimate with someone. I'm learning that it's not a bad thing. It's normal. That's why God tells us not to indulge in intercourse until after the commitment of marriage. It's a powerful emotional connection that happens. I know this now. Like I said, I've grown. Two of the best weeks of my life go by. I've fallen hard for this girl and allowed her to meet my son. I spent almost every waking moment with her, and she tells me she needs some space. What? What is space? What am I supposed to do while you are in space? I found an apartment and I told her I'd be moving into it. The next day I was gathering all my things from her house. She was home. She laid down for a nap and asked that I come say goodbye before I took off with my ride to my new apartment. I didn't say goodbye. I couldn't. I couldn't bear the rejection again. Those bricks I brought down for her went back up, even higher this time. I sat alone in my new one bedroom, one bath apartment. Washer and dryer hookup sitting open and empty, just adjacent to a small kitchen off the main living room. 425 square feet, all to myself. I went to work and tried to avoid seeing Athena. It hurt too bad. I minded my business at work and went home from my apartment for almost a week by myself. I had an ex from high school reach out and want to hang out. I figured, why not? Her and her friend showed up, and within 10 minutes, her friend had broken the glass of the picture I had of my dad's mom while she was trying to crush a pill on it. I was pissed. I pushed them out the door as my phone rang. It was Athena. What are you up to? She says. Just kicking out my ex and her friend. I explained the situation to her. Nobody breaks my boyfriend's stuff. I'll be right there, she exclaims and hangs up. 12 minutes later, there she was. It took her 12 minutes to travel what should have safely and legally taken 30 to 35 to travel. All 5 feet, 90 pounds of her raging, yelling at these two girls to get out of her boyfriend's house and get lost. Wait, boyfriend? What? To say she has redhead blood is an understatement. We spent the rest of that night together, and she apologized for what had happened the prior week. We ended up moving in together into that little apartment.